Fox News strategic analyst Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters from Washington. He's the author of the new book, The War After Armageddon. And the Colonel feels very strongly about the Fort Hood situation. So you listened to the President today at the memorial. What did you think?
Well, I thought the memorial was very moving. That's something my Army knows how to do well. I thought the President's remarks were, he delivered them well, but they're boilerplate, clearly written by speechwriters who never served in the military. But one point particularly got to me, offended me, where he said, first of all, that the act at Fort Hood was incomprehensible. Then later on he said it's hard to comprehend. No, it wasn't hard to comprehend, and it's not now. It was the act of an Islamist terrorist who gunned down 54 people, because he believed he was doing the will of Allah in accordance with the Quran. Not hard to understand. The evidence is there. And Bill, when you played those clips just now, where you had the rambling with Chris Matthews and the bit about, oh, well, every religion's got its nuts. Yeah, but where are the Southern Baptist suicide bombers? Where are the Methodist marketplace massacre types? It's clear that the problem is Islam. And the other thing that offended me in all the speeches at Fort Hood today, not one mention of terrorism. I didn't expect them to mention Islamist terrorism. That'd be too far for Obama. But what does it take? What evidence does it take for our president to admit this was an act of terror?
It's a good question.
God.
It's a good question, and it was an act of terror. But let me play devil's advocate here. Barack Obama wants to win hearts and minds in the Middle East, in the Muslim world, which is a good thing. And you know that. As a soldier, we can't kill all the Muslims. So we want to win as many hearts and minds of good, moderate Muslims as we can. So he goes out of his way. You're absolutely right, Colonel. He goes out of his way to avoid the Muslim terrorist label, which clearly applies to Hassan. But he doesn't do it because he wants to tamp down the anger in the Muslim world rather than ratchet it up. So is that not a worthy strategy?
No, it's not, because it doesn't work. The primary requirement for any strategy is it has to work. And Bill, another aspect of political correctness that is devastating and our government gets utterly wrong is when our government rushes to defend the usually Saudi-funded hate speech in American mosques, American Muslim organizations, they're not doing Muslims any favors. They are empowering the small minority of Muslims who are haters, who don't want
we have freedom
Muslim
of speech
immigrants
in this
to
country,
immigrate.
and it's hard to go into a mosque and kick out some imam who's spreading hate. But let's get to the army.
But we shouldn't apologize for them.
No, apologizing for terrorism is a disgrace, and anybody who does it is going to be hammered here. But let's get to the Army. Now, all of the information that we've compiled, and there's a lot of it, says that the Army knew about this guy. They knew Hassan was a terrorist sympathizer. Yet, not discharged, not disciplined, nobody watching the man. How could that happen, Colonel?
Bill, I'm at my wit's end. I knew political correctness had really penetrated deeply into our Army. But the idea that the Army knew that this guy had made 20 efforts to contact al-Qaeda recruiters and had some email exchanges. Imagine if during the Cold War an American officer had tried 20 times, 20 phone calls to the Soviet embassy in Washington, or the Soviets in general. I mean, this just doesn't track. But the bottom line on this is, because he was a minority of a minority, a Muslim doctor in the Army, a psychiatrist, Hassan kept slipping through because nobody wanted to take him on. Why? Because his superiors at Walter Reed, where he had deep problems with his patients, with his peers, everybody knew that if they tried to take him on and put him out of the Army, that they would be accused of discrimination, and Hassan would probably go on with his career, and the people who charged him would be the ones to end up on the chopping block. We've got to stop this. General Casey, a well-meaning, decent guy, the Army Chief of Staff, but good God, he needs to stop talking about diversity, diversity, diversity. He needs to spend more time thinking about the soldiers who died and were wounded at Fort Hood. At some point, you just need to knock off the BS.
All right, Colonel. Thanks very much. We appreciate it.